Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Sentinel Report. I'm your host, Alex Newman. Thanks so much for joining us on this beautiful February 16th that the Lord has made. So much going on in the world, especially with the Epstein files. We're going to keep hammering these Epstein files, folks. It's bad. It's horrific. It's unconscionable, and nobody's in handcuffs yet. So we will talk to the great Stephen Gardner about Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. Really interesting, strange comments when she was being grilled by members of Congress about why nobody's been indicted and other issues. We also have Brian Stivale joining us. He was a key actor, voice, whatever, in the hit new movie David, which was amazing. But a lot going on the Epstein files, a lot going on with the Trump administration, and so stay tuned. We also have Andrew Mueller joining us today. But before we get to the news and our guests, a word from the Word. This comes out of Romans chapter 15, verse 13. The Bible reads, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope." Good reminder, folks. We need to be abounding in hope. And before we get to the news, I do want to remind you about our friends over at Heritage Defense, folks. They do such important work. I've been a member for years. And the reality is, if you're a Christian homeschool family, you are potentially at risk. In fact, over a third of American children are subject to a CPS, a Child Protective Service investigation, at some point before they turn 18. That's 37% of American children. That's a lot of families. Now, most of those families are perfectly innocent, and in fact, over 83% of these children are determined not to be victims of child abuse or neglect. But even for innocent families, folks, the process can be the punishment. And so when you're a member of Heritage Defense, you can call them up anytime, day or night, 24/7, 365 days out of the year, and talk to an attorney in your state who specializes in this area of law. So we've got their phone number right on our refrigerator. Praise the Lord, we'll never have to use it, but all kinds of great resources there if you have questions about the laws in your state. And folks, homeschoolers especially are not immune from being reported. CPS investigations often come from like medical choices. You disagree with your doctor, accidents, some kind of innocent mistake. Sometimes there's false reports from disgruntled friends, family, neighbors, people who disagree with your parenting decisions. And so it's just much easier to sleep at night knowing that if you're a member of Heritage Defense, you can have total peace of mind. You can just call them 24/7 and they can handle all the hard stuff for you. They're ready to fight to protect your home, your children, and your family. So don't wait until the social worker shows up at your door, folks. Become a member now. You can find them at heritagedefense.org. That's heritagedefense.org. Going to the news, really unbelievable stuff happening. But I want to start by clearing something up, folks. A lot of the fake media is trying to make people believe that Donald Trump is somehow connected to Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, I've seen multiple articles where, Trump was close to Epstein. Trump was an associate of Epstein's. Well, newly unsealed documents from the Department of Justice show that actually in July of 2006, we're talking almost 20 years ago here, businessman Donald Trump was one of the first people to actually call the police to warn them about the sex predator Jeffrey Epstein. There's also information about a 2019 interview summary with former Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder. And Trump had actually contacted the police department shortly after reports of Epstein's criminal sex investigation became public. The future president, Donald Trump, actually contacted the police chief to express his relief that the government was finally acting and doing something. He described Epstein's behaviors as disgusting and told investigators to focus on Ghislaine Maxwell. He described her as evil. So don't believe the fake media, folks. If Donald Trump was somehow involved in the Epstein scandal, he would have been plastered on the front page of every newspaper with the screenshot of the email or the documents. We are being lied to. We are being played. Now, some of the people who are involved are probably less than happy right now. Interesting video popping up, and obviously we don't endorse this, but you've got furious Americans now actively hunting down and chasing down some of Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators. One in particular, Les Wexner, a ultra wealthy individual involved with Victoria's Secret and other luxury clothing brands. Citizens literally tracking these people down and asking them questions. I want to share with you one little video where a citizen tells him to his face there's a storm coming.
The Leslie Wexner, who is part of a trifecta of sexual abuse scandals.
How you doing?
Are we going to get some justice for the survivors, Mr. T-Berry?
survivors outside. We're going to get some justice for them. Johnson, you ever get tired of telling lies for these people? You ever get tired of telling lies for these people?
I don't tell any lies.
Where's Wexner? What's he doing today?
You have to ask his people.
Well, his people's right there. Board Chairman John Zeiger is his personal lawyer. Where's Wexner, Zeiger? We got to get you straightened up, brother.
I don't,
you don't think it's a conflict of interest?
I speak for the university, only the university.
How's this?
I'll talk to you later. This was fun.
Mr. Carpenter, we're going to get some justice for the survivors today.
Mr. Marshall, Mr. Marshall.
I know you're...
this gentleman is here accosting people coming into the courtroom. This gentleman right here.
Should Wexner's name share the same line with a guy like Woody Hayes?
Well,
he also handpicked Mike Jeffries, the former Abercrombie CEO. He's been indicted for sexual trafficking, interstate prostitution. So that's the trifecta. Wexner.
That's not good. Look, I don't have. If you,
Listen, I think Wexner's been tied to Epstein the whole time.
what do you expect? What are you expecting?
I expect some people to talk about it, to get it in the media, to use your office. Leslie Wexner's been running around this city for 40 years, being in my opinion, being a sex criminal, and you guys act like you got no power. I put you on the spot, and I'm just a lowly county commissioner. You're one of the most powerful people in this county, brother. And you're going to stand here and act, I'm a small bean? Don't play that act with me.
Listen, I think it's wrong. I think that this needs to come to light, and somebody's going to step up and say, all right, this happened, and agree to it. But you know what's happening at the national level, what's happening here, they're hiding all this stuff. I think it's wrong.
The Wexner facility, that name was put up there with Woody Hayes, the most prestigious name in university history. $5 million donation. 2.5 came from his wife. The other 2.5 came from Jeffrey Epstein, his foundation with Giselle Maxwell. 2.5.
If you want to forward that to me, I'll look at it and contact it.
I'm giving you the heads up because there's a storm coming.
Well, then that's a problem for him if that's the case.
Yeah.
Do I like Les Wexner? I barely know the guy, but do I
like
what he's done?
Will you give his money back? Your campaign money?
He gave me money years ago.
Will you give that money back to charity?
Sure.
All right, there we go. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's a sad state of affairs, brother.
Wow. Amazing, folks. Andrew, you've been following this pretty closely, and I know you spent a lot of time in the Epstein files themselves. You've got a great article up over at the New American about somebody in the Trump administration who is at least connected to Jeffrey Epstein and Howard Lutnick. In fact, we've been sounding the alarm about Lutnick since he was first involved in the Trump campaign. But what did you find? I mean, Lutnick, I guess, said, I never had anything to do with him after realizing he was a creep. But it turns out that's not true, huh?
No, it's not. Howard Lutnick did an interview in October of 2025 with Podforce One. And in the interview, he tells the host, Mariana, that he met Epstein once in 2005 with his wife, Allison, that they took a tour of Epstein's mansion in Manhattan. Of course, the Lutnicks live immediately next door to Epstein's mansion in Manhattan. And Lutnick says they got a tour, that they saw a massage table, got creeped out. And he says the following: I decided to never be in a room with Jeffrey Epstein for business, for social reasons, or for philanthropy. And the trouble with that is, Alex, is that it's a lie. The Epstein files reveal that not only did Howard Lutnick go to Epstein Island with his family post pedo conviction of Jeffrey Epstein in 2008, but he also did business deals. He signed a business deal with Epstein just days after he visited the island in 2012 to buy something called Advent Solutions. And then he also did multiple philanthropic activities with Epstein, such as raising money for Hillary Clinton, doing Wall Street dinners in Lutnick's honor. So is it to say that Howard Lutnick's involved in, sexually molesting children, all this stuff? No, we don't have evidence of that, but we do have evidence of the Commerce Secretary of the United States of America lying to the media in October of 2025, saying he had no connections with Epstein after he went to his house in 2005. And then unfortunately, the opposite ended up being true.
Yeah. Very troubling. And I think we deserve answers as tax-paying American citizens. Now, over in Europe, they are not treating this scandal so lightly. I know people are asking Lutnick questions, and that's good. Some people are calling for him to resign. But over in Norway, the former prime minister has now been officially charged with a crime. He's been charged with gross corruption surrounding his links with Jeffrey Epstein. The name is Torbjorn Jagland, and this was a big guy. He wasn't just the prime minister. He also was the chairman of the Nobel Committee that hands out the Nobel Peace Prize. He was also the Secretary General of the Council of Europe, which gave him diplomatic immunity. When Norwegian authorities asked, thankfully, the Council of Europe was willing to remove that immunity so that he could be prosecuted. But why is it that Norway can prosecute people involved with Jeffrey Epstein, but the United States of America still has nobody in handcuffs? This, I think, is really, really disturbing. There's already heads rolling in the United Kingdom. Hopefully there will be many more. If you look at Jagland, he had planned solo and family visits to Epstein's home, his New York mansion, his Paris house, his Palm Beach mansion. And this was, of course, after Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of child sex trafficking. So we'll see where this goes, but I'm glad that at least the Europeans are now taking this seriously. Some of the stuff is really, really bad. We don't have access to all of it, and we wouldn't want to see it. But I want to play a little clip with Representative Burchett in South Carolina, I believe, where he's talking about seeing some of the unredacted Epstein files. It's horrific. Check it out.
I want to warn people about that file. People have a sick fascination with this stuff. And you got kids. I got a daughter. I've been through this many times with the legislation I've had in Tennessee and dealt with, the officers that are involved with it and the awful things they say. This stuff that is in these files makes all that pale in comparison. And if you're offered an opportunity to view the pictures or read the files, I would seriously consider not doing that. Yeah. Because it will haunt you, this stuff that's in there. This stuff just goes so deep, Benny, and it is very disgusting to me. And, it's evil, it's satanic, and it's from the pits of hell, and that's where these people will end up.
Yeah, it's evil, folks. We're talking here about emails discussing the torture of children, all these references to beef jerky. Seems like references to some sort of cannibalism is what a lot of analysts are saying. There is stuff that's so grotesque, and we're going to be doing more on this in the weeks and the months ahead, because this is something that cannot go away. We cannot allow it to go away. We must have people in handcuffs for this kind of stuff, as multiple members of Congress have said. Now, if we can't protect children from these kinds of evil monsters, who can we protect? What can we do? Now, switching gears a little bit, and again, we'll come back to Epstein with our first guest. Stephen Gardner will be on after the break. But we've got some really important developments on the election fraud front. Donald Trump has ordered the Central Intelligence Agency to hand over the 2020 election intelligence to the infamous so-called Stop the Steal lawyer, Kurt Olson. Great attorney. I've had the pleasure of meeting him multiple times through Mike Lindell and others. And the CIA is supposed to be in a panic about this. You can tell from the way the fake media is covering this. Conspiracy theorist, crazy lawyer, or whatever. Apparently, Kurt Olson is now a temporary employee at the White House. And so I, for one, am very encouraged to see this. And the more the media freaks out, the more you know we are on the right track. Now, the Trump administration is working on a new nuclear arms control deal with the Russians. The New START agreement actually expired, and so the Russian government stopped even pretending like they're going to obey it years ago. But this new effort, according to Marco Rubio, seeks to also bring the communist Chinese into the fold. Rubio says that Russia and China should not expect the United States to stand still while they shirk their obligations and expand their nuclear forces. We will maintain a robust, credible, and modernized nuclear deterrent, but we will do so while pursuing all avenues to fulfill the president's genuine desire for a world with fewer of these awful weapons. We'll talk more about Marco Rubio in our next segment as well when we have Stephen Gardner on. Now, the U.S. Department of Energy may have saved the day thanks to orders from President Trump and Secretary of Energy Chris Wright. According to the Department of Energy, the administration's order to maintain some of these coal power plants operating over these grid concerns may have actually saved lives. during this unbelievable winter storm Fern that hit us just in recent days. According to Wright, the Secretary of Energy, the U.S. did not experience any outages during the winter storm from a lack of electricity generation. The only outages that there were came because of power lines coming down from ice and things like that. So here's what he said. Beautiful, clean coal was the MVP of the huge cold snap we're in right now. I can say with some confidence, hundreds of American lives have been saved because of President Trump's actions saving America's coal industry. So, folks, that is good news. But there's also bad news. It's being described as a train wreck. The U.S. government added $481 billion with a B U.S. dollars worth of debt in literally 3 months. Okay, the government hit the debt ceiling back in January. That prevented any new debt from being created from January to June in 2025. But once that debt ceiling was lifted, the government literally went on a borrowing frenzy. Over the last 7 months, they have borrowed over $2.25 trillion. Folks, 2.25 trillion with a T. That follows 2.6 trillion and 2.2 trillion in 2023 and 2024. Folks, this is obviously unsustainable. $2 trillion a year in borrowing is completely unreasonable. And we're talking here, folks, if you do the math, $10 trillion of new debt added onto the backs of your children and your grandchildren at the current rate over the next decade. And a lot of the money, of course, is going to things that are completely ridiculous and completely unreasonable. Andrew, we've got a few minutes left. What do you make of this borrowing spree, and how do we get the Republican Congress and the Republican White House to make this stop?
Well, it's a catastrophe, Alex. And unfortunately, we've even seen Trump put money into things that are unconstitutional that he campaigned on getting us out of, such as the United Nations and the Department of Education, which recently received a whole bucket of cash. But we already have the answer. It's a beautiful thing called Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. It explains what we can and can't spend money on. And if Congress returned back to that, I would argue at least 90% of our budgetary issues would disappear overnight. But a lot of these people in Congress, unfortunately, aren't conservative. They're not constitutionalists. And that's why this continues to go on.
Yeah, we've got to get this under control, folks. It isn't fair to our children to be doing this to them. How are they supposed to pay that? It's completely unreasonable. Now, growing voices now calling for the termination of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. It's coming up for review here very soon. And what's been going on is Communist China and other players have just been shipping stuff to Mexico and Canada to try to circumvent Trump's tariffs. But the solution that's being offered here is even worse than the problem. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer is calling for more integration for enhancing economic security alignments on tariffs. In other words, they're calling for creating, and Scott Bessent over at the Treasury is also talking about this, creating a Fortress North America, which of course is a precursor to exactly the abomination they built in the European Union. Right? They want to create a common external perimeter around the three countries, basically a common border around the three countries that would all have common tariffs. And frankly, that would create a customs union, which is the next step up from the USMCA on what the globalists have as their 5 levels of economic integration. That's literally taught in international business classes and other programs in universities throughout the world. Folks, the USMCA is unconstitutional. It needs to stop. I know Trump was told that it was going to be a better deal for our farmers and our manufacturers, but we're surrendering our sovereignty, and we don't need to do this. So when it comes up for review, we ought to all be pressing it for some really big and genuine changes like getting rid of it. Meanwhile, the Mexican government is literally running subversion operations in the United States through its consulates. This is the latest from the Government Accountability Institute. Check it out.
China has only 5 consulates in America. Great Britain, only 8. Mexico, more than 50. They're not just issuing passports. The Mexican government has built a sophisticated political machine inside our country that pushes migrants to resist assimilation, lobbies our politicians to put Mexico's agenda first, floods 1 million Spanish-language Marxist-inspired textbooks into our children's classrooms, stokes anti-American hatred and social chaos. It isn't random. It's an invisible coup.
Peter Schweitzer and his staff over at the Government Accountability Institute do some really great work, folks. We need to be paying attention. You know, I spent more time living in Mexico than any other place, and I love Mexico, but I'll tell you what, the Mexican government's hostile operations in our country need to be stopped, and the idea that we need deeper integration with them in light of this is utterly preposterous. Before we go to break, I want to show you this creepy Super Bowl ad for the Ring doorbell surveillance camera thing. Check this out.
This is Milo. Pets are family. But every year, 10 million go missing. And the way we look for them hasn't changed in years. Until now. One post of a dog's photo in the Ring app starts outdoor cameras looking for a match. Search Party from Ring uses AI to help families find lost dogs. Since launch, more than a dog a day has been reunited with their family. Be a hero in your neighborhood with Search Party. Available to everyone for free right now. Join the neighborhood at ring.com.
Well, if they can do that for your dog, what happens when they decide to do it for you, right? American consumers have been tricked into creating the most Orwellian surveillance network ever. And by the way, if you don't think the NSA has access to all these surveillance devices, you are kidding yourself. Folks, before we go to break, I want to tell you about our friends over at Classical Conversations. If you have children, grandchildren, any children in your life, nieces, nephews, neighbors, and you don't want them to be indoctrinated by the government, but you want them to get a real education, the kind that Americans got before the government took over and started pushing climate change and transgenderism and LGBT and other foolishness, you need to check out our friends over at Classical Conversations. I serve as a fellow there. My children are enrolled there, and it is an incredible program. I love their motto and the purpose of education. It's to know God and make him known. We agree wholeheartedly. So go check it out, classicalconversations.com/LSM, and stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break with the great Stephen Gardner, host of the Stephen Gardner Show. Hey guys, Alex Newman here. I want to tell you about a wonderful ministry that is doing incredibly important work. That's Public School Exit. I am very blessed to serve as the volunteer executive director. We've got an incredible team, and our mission is simple. Try to get as many children into the safe sanctuary of Christian education as humanly possible, as quickly as possible. Government schools are no place for children. Children need to learn about God. They need to learn the Word of God. They need real education. They need to learn how to read, write, and do math. And we all know that's not what's happening in the government schools. In fact, what's happening is they're turning our children into revolutionaries, little radicals ready to burn down our churches and our civilization, not to mention our families. So go check it out today, publicschoolexit.com. We've got all kinds of resources for parents, for pastors, for taxpayers, for everybody down the line. And folks, this is one of the most critical battles. So go check out our partners at publicschoolexit.com, publicschoolexit.com. Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Folks, we've talked a lot about the Epstein files on this program, and that's because, as I said last week, I think this is actually the biggest scandal, certainly in my lifetime, maybe in American history. There was some interesting hearings in Congress, and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, had some, shall we say, interesting responses. Joining us to discuss all of this and more is the great Stephen Gardner. He's been a regular guest on this program. He's the host of the Stephen Gardner Show. If you're not watching it, you should be. He does really great work bringing the truth to the forefront of politics. Stephen, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Alex.
It's an honor and a pleasure to have you. So, Stephen, before we get to Pam Bondi in Congress, just what's your 50,000-foot view right now on what we've learned so far from the Epstein files?
Well, I'm grateful that they're coming out. This is something that should have been done many years ago, but we're getting to it now, and I'm grateful for that. This stuff has to be exposed. The American people, they voted for this. They're demanding it now more than they were even a year ago. And so the Trump administration needs to listen to the voters and get this stuff out. Now, my understanding from listening to Alex Jones over the weekend is in the last few days, there was a meeting, probably after Pam Bondi's congressional hearing, where President Trump, behind closed doors, went all Queens, New York on everybody. And by that, I mean just screaming the F word, yelling at people, saying, get these files out to the people, get these, blankety blank files out. You're embarrassing me. Every one of you is on the chopping block. I will fire you. I will get you out. Get this information out to the American public. So I know that he wants to get that information out. And I'm sad that for so many months he felt like he had to defend himself for not being in there versus just confidently saying, I'm not in there. Let's roll this out. You'll see the truth. But it is very concerning for me. You've got a lot of people that were high up in the Obama administration that are now being connected to this. The former U.S. Treasury, you've got one of Obama's top lawyers having hundreds of communications, calling him uncle and daddy and other things, saying how much she loves being around him. You've got people in the Trump administration like Lutnick that it's questionable. Doesn't mean he had anything to do with the crimes or the bad behavior, but the association looks bad. You've got Steve Bannon, somebody that I have enjoyed listening to for many years. His name is in there. So names are coming out, and I think people, they need to just come forward, defend themselves, share their side of the story. If you're guilty, you're going to be roasted. If you're not, then you're going to have an opportunity to defend yourself. But from what I'm seeing right now, this is a sick, perverted man who tried to infiltrate the highest levels of government, the highest levels of banking, and the highest levels of academia. And he did. And now I believe we just need all this truth to come out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Stephen. This has got to come out, and I'm glad that the president is moving in that direction. I heard Alex Jones also talking about why it would have taken so long, and his hypothesis was that some of the people over at DOJ said, "Oh, you're probably going to be in there. You don't want to be explaining that for the next 3 years." But we now know that if he had been in there in any kind of incriminating way, that would have been on the front page of every newspaper around the world for the next 3 years. So presumably he was not involved in any negative way, although I understand he reported Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So that's encouraging news. But man, Pam Bondi's performance was, I don't know, interesting. Let's watch that first clip of her when she's asked about Epstein and starts talking about the stock market.
The Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the stock market too. I like talking about the stock market, but we're talking here about horrible crimes perpetrated against children. What do you make of that, Stephen?
I thought it was very tone deaf. I mean, the very first time that President Trump agitated his voters, they were having a cabinet meeting, and a lot of good economic news had just come out about Trump and his policies. And then somebody brought up Epstein, and President Trump was like, "Why are you talking about this guy? Like, we need to be done from this. I want to talk about what we're doing on the border, what we're doing in the economy, what we're doing to make life more affordable." And that's not what the people wanted to hear. And so that put a lot of bad press on the president. I feel like this is just that situation 2.0, where you literally have Epstein victims sitting directly behind AG Pam Bondi, and she's talking about the stock market. And again, the reason I think that President Trump hasn't fired her so far is she is a bulldog for defending President Trump. But this was the wrong venue to bring up the fact that your 401k or IRA are doing really well, that the Dow Jones is breaking all-time records. Like, yeah, that's a good thing. There's 100 million Americans with a 401k or some kind of a retirement plan. But to me, this looked like a deflection from just coming out and answering. And she was not calm. She looked very emotional and erratic, and I get it. They were hitting her from all sides. I don't know how I would have reacted in that situation. So I want to extend some grace, but I have to be honest. It looked a little bit tone deaf, and I think it was the wrong time to brag about the stock market.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of Trump's base agrees that that probably wasn't the best way to deal with this. It actually gets worse. She starts talking about some other stuff. Let's roll that second clip.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No, you're
Your
going to answer the
theatrics are
question the way I
ridiculous.
asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people, but I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
The time belongs.
I think it's very interesting.
Reclaiming my time.
I think it's very interesting.
You can
when
reclaim
he
your
talks
time.
about they
Reclaiming my time,
indicted,
Mr.
the
Chairman.
president said they indicted him twice.
Mr. Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock
did.
and stop the
he
clock and
indicted.
restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will be in order.
theatrics.
The time belongs to the gentleman from New York.
Please.
We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when
Reclaiming
you ask
my-
a question, the witness
question
gets to
was-
answer. You may not like the answer, but she gets to
The
answer.
question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like the answer, Chairman,
Reclaiming my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming
So
my-
he asked a
Reclaiming my
4-minute
time.
question.
Restore 45
and
seconds,
I am
Mr. Nadler,
going
please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch.
Reclaiming-
Not on our time. No way.
Reclaiming-
And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I
anything,
did tell you because we
washed
saw
up
what you did in the
loser
Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Time, and I should get back at least 45 seconds.
We will give you a few more seconds. I
Not a
said that
few more,
already.
45 seconds.
Okay, I'm timing right now, Mr. Nadler. Go
All
ahead.
right.
My time. The answer to my question, how many of Epstein's co-conspirators has she indicted, is 0. You have been the Attorney General for a whole year, and your DOJ fired the lead prosecutor of this case, sat on evidence this entire time, and claimed falsely last July that there were no more leads. It took an act of Congress for you to finally release part of the Epstein files, and when you did, you included personal information about the victims while protecting the names of abusers.
Time of the gentleman
None of
has
the perpetrators have
expired.
been brought to justice, but enormous resources
Time
have been
of the
dedicated
gentleman
to
has
pursuing Trump's
expired,
enemies.
and
It's
obviously
clear
there
that
was-
under your leadership, the Department of Justice
There was
no longer
no
works for
question
American
in there.
people. It works
Order
for Donald
respond to.
Trump. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
Well, there's a lot to say about this, Stephen. But first of all, I do wonder, why have there been no indictments? Why is nobody in handcuffs, considering everything we know? And I guess a second part to the question: how in the world did this become a good issue for the Democrats? I mean, all these Democrat fundraisers, Democrat bigwigs are in the files, and yet somehow in Congress, this is now becoming a winning issue for the Democrats. What does Trump need to do here to get ahead of this and make put the Democrats back on defense, let's say?
This was an absolute circus show. I'll tell you exactly what I think President Trump should do. I've been trying to get this message to him, so maybe he'll watch this show. I've tried to reach out to Roger Stone. I've tried to reach out to anybody that I think could do that. Later in this week, you've got President Bill Clinton documented having Epstein in the White House at least 17 times, documented going on his plane, documented being with young girls. This guy is a cheater and a philanderer, right? This is what I think should happen. On the day that Congress brings him in to testify about his deep connection to Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump should have the Epstein victims brought to the White House. He should say, listen, I know that you guys are counting on us to get the truth out there. We've now released over 4 million documents. We are putting a pressure campaign on Ghislaine Maxwell to give us the truth without being blackmailed and forced to release her from prison. So bring them in, say, you guys are welcome at the White House. Perverts like Jeffrey Epstein are not. And this would be such a great juxtaposition. Bring them in on the very day that Bill Clinton is being forced to plead the fifth, most likely, but at least have questions asked about his deep connection, and then continue to try to get the truth out there. Trump is not in there, but he knows people that are in there. And let me just be crystal clear. I don't think the majority of these people were involved with, children or any of the nasty stuff that Jeffrey Epstein was doing. But the fact that their name is there and they associate it, it's going to come out. So let them defend themselves. But by burying this, President Trump's second term is going to be known as the Epstein cover-up.
Yeah, I think you're right, Steve. I love the idea. Actually, I would encourage our viewers and our listeners to send a note to the White House. Let them know. I think that's a brilliant idea. And frankly, I would like to see some of these people in handcuffs. I almost can't believe I was reading an article, I think in NPR, and over again. And Trump knew Epstein, and Trump was close to Epstein. I mean, just blatant lies. And so there are now millions of people in this country who think Trump is somehow associated with Epstein, that he was involved in this, and that's why the cover-up is happening. He needs to get ahead of this, and bringing the victims to the White House would be a great way to do that. Stephen, I also want to ask you about Marco Rubio. He was over in Germany for the Munich Security Conference, and he gave a speech that really lit up the Trump administration's base and really infuriated a lot of the European governments that are so busy destroying the cultural heritage, the civilization that they inherited from people far greater than themselves. Let's roll part of that clip, and then we'll come back and have you respond.
For 5 centuries before the end of the Second World War, the West had been expanding. Its missionaries, its pilgrims, its soldiers, its explorers pouring out from its shores to cross oceans, settle new continents, build vast empires extending out across the globe. But in 1945, for the first time since the age of Columbus, it was contracting. Europe was in ruins. Half of it lived behind an iron curtain, and the rest looked like it would soon follow. The great Western empires had entered into terminal decline, accelerated by godless communist revolutions and by anti-colonial uprisings that would transform the world and drape the red hammer and sickle across vast swaths of the map in the years to come. Against that backdrop, then as now, many came to believe that the West's age of dominance had come to an end, and that our future was destined to be a faint and feeble echo of our past. But together, our predecessors recognized that decline was a choice, and it was a choice they refused to make. This is what we did together once before, and this is what President Trump and the United States want to do again now, together with you. And this is why we do not want our allies to be weak, because that makes us weaker. We want allies who can defend themselves so that no adversary will ever be tempted to test our collective strength. This is why we do not want our allies to be shackled by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great and noble civilization, and who together with us are willing and able to defend it. And this is why we do not want allies to rationalize the broken status quo rather than reckon with what is necessary to fix it. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. We do not seek to separate, but to revitalize an old friendship and renew the greatest civilization in human history. What we want is a reinvigorated alliance that recognizes that what has ailed our societies is not just a set of bad policies, but a malaise of hopelessness and complacency. An alliance is the alliance that we want is one that is not paralyzed into inaction by fear. Fear of climate change, fear of war, fear of technology. Instead, we want an alliance that boldly races into the future. And the only fear we have is the fear of the shame of not leaving our nations prouder, stronger, and wealthier for our children. An alliance ready to defend our people, to safeguard our interests, and to preserve the freedom of action that allows us to shape our own destiny. Not one that exists to operate a global welfare state and atone for the purported sins of past generations. An alliance that does not allow its power to be outsourced, constrained, or subordinated to systems beyond its control. One that does not depend on others for the critical necessities of its national life. And one that does not maintain the polite pretense that our way of life is just one among many, and that asks for permission before it acts. And above all, an alliance based on the recognition that we, the West, have inherited together. What we have inherited together is something that is unique and distinctive and irreplaceable. Because this, after all, is the very foundation of the transatlantic bond.
Fascinating, Stephen. I mean, he's come a long way from when Trump was calling him Little Marco. I mean, we haven't heard a high-level official talk like that in quite some time, with the possible exception of Donald Trump. What do you make of the speech?
So in the last 12 months, my two favorite speeches have been President Trump when he spoke at Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The second one was this Marco Rubio speech. It made me incredibly proud to be an American. But the reason that it resonated so much is there's just so much truth in that. We're not trying to separate from NATO. We're not trying to shame or separate from Europe. We're saying we're no longer going to apologize for being the top dog. We're not going to allow the United Nations and European Union and the globalists to overrun the United States of America. He then flips it back on them and says, if we have to go at this alone, we will, but we want you to partner with us. And America is only strong if our partners are strong. And right now, Europe is weak. You guys are being invaded by Muslims. You guys are being invaded by third world nations. You guys are focused more on illegals that have no money to live in your country than you are on the working class that generate the tax dollars. And so if we want to be strong and have a strong Western culture, a Christian-based culture, a strong dollar, a strong euro, then we have to work together. I just thought it was so brilliant. This was not little Marco. This was big Marco. This was powerful Marco. He has really stepped in to his position as Secretary of State. I can see why President Trump says he will go down in history as one of the best secretaries of state. I thought it was a brilliant speech. It called on the best of the European Union while also displaying the best of the United States of America.
Yeah. You think there's a chance he's preparing for a run in 2028?
Oh, possibly. There's a lot of talk about a J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio ticket. I think that it could absolutely dominate. Right now, he's polling very low, but that's because he's not said anything about running for president. Right now, he is just solely focused on the best interest of America, which is where I want his focus.
Yeah. Yeah, and hearing him at Charlie Kirk's memorial service too, I was really impressed. Quite an improvement from the days as U.S. Senator for our great state of Florida here. Stephen, there's a reason why you have become one of the most popular commentators in this space on YouTube and in the conservative media world. You host the Stephen Gardner Show. What's the best way for folks to follow you? I know you've got over 2 million subscribers on YouTube. Where do you want to point people who want to stay in touch and follow your show?
You can find me on most major platforms by just searching Stephen Gardner. But if you go to YouTube, you'll find this face, and I'd be happy to have him.
Excellent. Well, Stephen Gardner, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for your analysis of these key issues, and I hope we can get you back very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks, stay with us. We'll be back with more right here on the Sentinel Report after this quick break.
Life's just better with VNI. There's purpose, there's passion, and there's a renewed sense of inspiration and optimism with every day. After all, we were founded on the power of possibility. Nearly a decade ago, a team of world-class scientists, formulators, and industry makers brought together biology, chemistry, and technology and created something unique and life-changing while infusing a new sense of health and hope into the world. With every product comes an empowering opportunity to take charge of our destiny. One where we feel rejuvenated and energized, and everything else around us feels lighter, brighter, and full of promise. Let's live victoriously, together.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Thanks for staying with us over the break, folks. About a month and a half ago, I took my family, my wife and 6 children, and we went down to the movie theater. And we don't often go to the movie theaters anymore because so much of what's there is total garbage. But we found out there was a movie about David, that it was child-friendly. David, of course, from the Bible. And so we decided to go down and watch it. And I'll tell you what, it was really good. My children all loved it. My wife and I loved it. My oldest son loved it so much that when we got done watching the movie, he came home and he bought a bunch of stock in Angel Studios, because that's what he does. Angel Studios made the movie. It's just really, really well done. Again, it's called David. And in thinking about this, we wanted to bring somebody on who was involved with the movie. And so today we have joining us Brian Stivale. He is actually the voice behind the prophet Samuel in the film. Brian, welcome to the program. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you, especially since you've seen the movie and have experienced it.
You know, as I was watching it, I was just really impressed because the quality, like the graphics, the sound, the music, I mean, it's easy on par with Disney and Universal and all the rest of it, but they're not pushing the wokeness. It's not pushing, filthy agendas on my children. So I really, really loved it. That's why we wanted to get you on. It was so good. I want to encourage people to watch it. But let's start with just kind of the movie, the 50,000-foot view. You obviously played one of the key characters. But talk to us about the movie. How did it come about? Why did you guys decide to do it?
Well, the vision for the film is actually quite a long one over 3 decades. Phil Cunningham, our producer director, and his wife Jackie. Phil had the vision for it over 30 years ago. He grew up in South Africa. Sunrise Animation is a South African-based and created company in Cape Town. They're a wonderful group of believers down there that have all gotten together for the purposes of making family-friendly movies without agendas that tell biblical epic legend and also really just lighthearted stuff too. But Phil had this vision when he was young. He was very introverted, very reclusive. His mom had him come out of his room because she said, listen, you need to be less reclusive, be more of an adventurer, be more like David. At your age, David was having adventures. He was slaying bears and lions. He slew Goliath by the time he was your age. Go out, have adventures. And so he was encouraged by that story, by the heart of David, one after God, to get out of his shell. And living in South Africa, he was canoeing one night on the Zambezi River, and all these creatures, lions, and all these wild animals, birds in the sky, and the perfect stillness and clearness of the stars of the sky. He saw the majestic glory of God, and he said, I want other people to experience this. And the way that I got here was through that story. So that was one of the first steps. That was 30 years ago. Fast forward to 12 and a half years ago, we got into full production as far as fundraising and proof of concept. I say we lightly. I wasn't involved with it at all at that point, but a lot of wonderful people got on board. They built a proof of concept and started building a series called Young David, which is also available on the Angel Guild, which are these vignettes that take young David and show what it takes, the attributes of a king that are necessary for the next king of Israel, which he has all of these. So I encourage you to check that out. That's available streaming. But they did all of that and did the fundraising. And this is the single highest crowd-funded animation, let alone film, in history, as far as I know, that raised enough money to build an epic animation. So that started, and they began that process about 3 years ago. I got involved when casting came to me, and it was really honestly a matter of everything coming together in my life, a matter of convergence. I'm a believer. I'm an ordained pastor. My wife and I we serve as goodwill ambassadors to the state of Israel. I teach Hebrew roots, biblical archaeology, both in the footsteps of the apostles and in the Holy Land. My wife actually has a tour company based on that. And so this was a part of my life already. When the audition came up, it was just a matter of seeing what they were already doing and desperately wanting to be a part of it, because I'm kingdom-minded, and I thought, this is exactly what Hollywood needs. Because as far as I'm concerned, as the landscape's been untouched since the Prince of Egypt. 22 plus years ago, this epic, massive tithe to God from DreamWorks, from 3 Jewish guys, was really a dedication to God in the Old Testament and fed the world with soul food. And I saw what they wanted to do with David and read the byline and the synopsis and thought, my goodness, I must be a part of that. So it didn't help to be, consciously thinking about it, but it did help that I was already somebody who sang in Hebrew with a Broadway history, and so there was a really nice fit there. it fell into a wonderful wonderful rhythm. The casting was right on with everybody else, I believe, as well, and the direction from both Ned Lott, the casting director and voice director, and Brett Dawes, the writer director of the film, were excellent. So I really just felt at home. I would say, without the shadow of a doubt, I've gotten to play Batman. I've gotten to play Venom. I'm Hagrid for the Wizarding World. This is the greatest thing I've ever gotten to do.
Wow.
Playing Samuel in this film, because of the quality of this film. I believe it's epic, it's classic, and it will last through the ages.
Yeah. Hearing you talk, that answers a lot of questions. I heard
Sorry.
one of my, no, it's great. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when the prophet Samuel shows up and starts examining Jesse's sons. And I was struck by how perfect your Hebrew accent was. I was like, man, that was really good.
Living in Jerusalem for 2 years helps, and being surrounded by Israeli ministries all the time helps too. So,
yeah. Wow, yeah, well, that explains a lot. I want to roll a preview of the film so people can get kind of at least a brief taste of it real quick, and then we'll come right back.
When the sheep scatter, a shepherd is who they need.
That'll teach you to mess with my sheep!
Are you going to sing or what?
Follow the light!
Get out! The king's love of the crown has consumed him. David, are you ready to be the next king?
What? No.
No?
Don't mess this up for me, David. I get to be princess.
I'm just a shepherd. We already have a king.
We will crush your kingdom.
Those are fighting words.
Bring out Goliath!
I've always followed when I'm looking for the way.
He's huge.
Searching for the answer in the moments I'm afraid.
Yep, we're dead.
If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive.
I told you.
He's brave. He is true. No.
He's so humble, too.
Come on and follow the light.
David, you have stolen the hearts of my people.
I have never wanted the throne.
Lies!
What happens now? You stolen David. Fight to the death.
I never asked for this.
The true battle is not against flesh and blood, but in our hearts.
I'm a shepherd. What can I do but look after my sheep?
Come on and follow the light.
Celebrate Christmas at the movies. Buy tickets now at angel.com/David. Exclusively in theaters, December 19th.
Wow, great preview too. Now it's not in the movie theaters in America anymore. At least now people can watch it streaming either at Angel Studios. I guess it's even on Amazon Prime and places like that. Brian, excellent job, and I loved the Prophet Samuel. Actually, the scene I was talking about just popped up there, so that was great. Before we let you go, what kind of reception is the film getting so far? I mean, what are the critics saying? Are you guys happy with the way the public is receiving it?
Oh, very much so. We had a blockbuster opening weekend when we opened, only second to the Blue Space Monkeys on Fire. We came in second and strong and surprised the box office and all of the other animation studios. It's had a wonderful reception. I believe it's been met with the greatest, one of the highest audience ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. It was the highest, I believe, for 2025. It was the best received family film of the year. So I'm really, I'm not surprised because I saw the quality as it was happening before my eyes and I knew God was doing something, but I really, I'm blessed by it to see. And now that it's streaming, to see new audiences, people who weren't going to go see it in the theaters, get curious and really have a good look and go, wow. And I'm seeing reviews pop up now from streaming reviews. They're saying the same things that the theater said. They were beyond pleasantly surprised. It's inspiring and uplifting and entertaining, and I just encourage everybody to check it out.
Yeah, I would echo that, folks. It's a really well done movie. And if you follow this program, you know I don't recommend a lot of movies. Again, we don't really watch most of the Hollywood stuff, but you guys did great. Brian, thank you very much for joining us today on the program and sharing your insights onto this. We appreciate it. And best way for people to watch the movie is just Angel Studios or Amazon.
Yeah, go
is
to
that
the
right?
Guild by all means. There's great benefits there, and there's other shows, tremendous shows. They're all family friendly, uplifting. That doesn't mean they're all Christian. It doesn't mean that they're all hokey dory fun, family. There, some of them are actually really intense. They've created great content, and I highly encourage everybody to check out the Guild. There's 2 million members and growing. I'm one of them, and I'm also on another cartoon there called The Garden. So check it out.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, really appreciate it. Thank you, Brian. It's been great to have you on the program, and I hope we can talk to you again.
Same. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Yeah, it really was a phenomenal film. I don't know if you remember, just a few months ago, we had Daniel Harmon on. He is the co-founder of Angel Studios. He was involved in the Tuttle Twins, and they're doing a lot of really great work over there, folks. And, I'll tell you what, as a dad with lots of children looking for good entertainment, it's good that there's something out there, and I hope this will encourage the big production companies and the Hollywood Weirdo studios to start producing more family-friendly stuff and less filth. That's all we have time for today here on the Sentinel Report. I do want to encourage you to go to our website, libertysentinel.org, sign up for the free newsletter, and stay in touch. Send us your notes. Click on that contact page. We love to hear from our listeners and our viewers. We appreciate you guys so much, and God willing, we shall be with you again next week. So until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. God bless you all.